All right. Hello. Welcome to the Beyond Jiu-Jitsu podcast, episode number 59. We have a guest with us today, Mr. David O'Brien. Dave is a purple belt, a chef extraordinaire, owner of a couple of catering companies, Cook and Waiter and Food Rascal. Not just your average party pies, a very good catering company.
I can speak to this firsthand experience. So, quick aside, as part of this intro.
You've ruined my intro, bro. It was going so well.
It was over. That was it. Well, welcome, Dave.
Welcome.
Thank you very much.
You.
But
very
I
nice intro.
Thank
you.
I have to fill the audience in on this story. I missed out on, when I first joined the gym, there was a catered event. And it was like after a grading or after a comp or something like that. I didn't go to it. Then the next one I did go to, and both events were catered by Dave's company. And holy shit, I vowed to myself that I will never, ever miss a catered event from Dave again. I remember just posting up to the food table and just standing there for like 2 hours. It was great.
It's definitely like very good food. It's one of the things that I say to like a lot of my students. I'm like, oh, I've kind of set this standard now. Like, because when I tell people about you, like, especially like foodie friends or whatever, they go, oh yeah, I've got Dave, it's just the easiest way to explain it is, oh, he's got a catering company, right? But I'm sure you've experienced this. People just kind of think, oh, catering company. Oh, okay, so they put out some finger food or whatever.
Bowls of nuts.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's not the case. So, it's, quite extraordinary catering. And now that, since you did the first like gym event, now that's just like the standard. Like, what am I going to do if one day, like even the last one was at such an inconvenient time for you, and like just because of like work being really busy. Yeah. But you still managed to cater the event for us. And I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do when the time comes when Dave's like, oh, I can't do it this time, or I've sold the business or whatever. I'm like, I'm screwed, bro. Like, how do I now go to some like bags of Doritos and like sausage sandwiches?
It'll be a riot.
So Dave, let's jump straight into it. So you're a purple belt. I mean, I didn't give you your purple belt, but you're a purple belt with me. Yeah. You've been training with me for a couple of years now. But you started Jiu-Jitsu a long time ago, and interestingly, you trained Jiu-Jitsu in Sydney when I didn't, like back in the earlier days. But before that, from any listeners who haven't picked up already, Dave's accent, right? You're not born and raised in Australia, originally from Liverpool specifically. So just take us back to, originally when you started training, why you started training. And then, at what stage did you come over here and start training in Australia?
Yeah. So just, grew up in Liverpool in a time when, there wasn't much work going on. It was quite a rough city, Liverpool. I kind of feel like you could, a little bit like in the Brazil or in the South America or in places where like kind of, how good a fighter you are is how you kind of get your respect around town kind of thing, like that thing that was going on in Brazil a little bit. You had to stand up for yourself. I always used to find that always was kind of quite obvious. Otherwise, you'd get pushed out of the way. But then also, I also feel that like, it was kind of just the way society was. It was a rough kind of, so boxed a little bit as a kid. I actually did Japanese jiu-jitsu a little bit as a kid and kind of like moved through that a little bit. Sort of everyone in Liverpool boxes, there's lots of great boxers come out of Liverpool and great champions come out of Liverpool and great martial artists. Anyway, so like then moved away from Liverpool, got into the chefing side of thing at quite a young age, left school at a young age and started chefing around. And then that took me into Europe, which kind of stopped the martial arts a little bit, took me into around Europe a little bit, and then eventually to Australia when I was about 22, 23. And then...
Did you, like, when you first came over here at that age, was that originally like a working holiday, or did you pretty much move here at that age?
I came here on a working holiday visa, but I knew I had plans to stay, and kind of like... I'll always be very thankful to Australia, and I never take it for granted, because when I arrived in Australia,
out, bro. ScoMo doesn't listen to this, so you'll be fine.
And I mean, like, the people and stuff, and the group of friends I created, and the opportunities that came around. Like, I guess growing up in Liverpool, in the north of England, in the era that I did, right? Like, the north of England had been in a recession my entire childhood, right? So you kind of just think that life isn't about many opportunities and many things just coming your way, or when you try a bit harder, things get a bit easier, or you try a bit harder and things kind of start to happen for you. Like, that kind of didn't happen, sort of thing. Look, maybe it was me. Maybe I didn't try hard enough. I don't know. Maybe everyone else was finding opportunity. I don't know, but I kind of didn't. But as soon as I moved away from Liverpool, and as soon as, and I started working and started putting yourself around places and creating reputation for yourself or friends or whatever, and like, things just kind of started to happen. So in Australia, got great opportunities, landed some good jobs, met some inspirational people, started making decisions about what I want to do and how I wanted to position my life and stuff like that. And like I say, from arriving on a work and holiday visa, I got business sponsorship visas and stuff like that.
As this was like through chefing?
Yeah, through chefing, and all of that kind of started to happen. And then, always had the plans. God, this is turning into a business podcast. I always had plans to start businesses, but sort of had really good jobs for about the first 15 years. So had these great jobs for great people. Like, I worked for one guy for 10 years, another guy for 5 years, another guy for 3 years, whatever. So, I had really great jobs. But around 2000, 2001, decided to start to re-explore the martial art world. And, went to like karate classes and went to...
So going back to before you came over, like, you did some boxing and stuff, but had you done any jiu-jitsu? Like, you did a bit of Japanese jiu-jitsu. Was that really the only grappling you had done prior to coming over here?
Yeah, but it wasn't really grappling either. It was more like self-defense. It would be all very like punch defense and bear hug defense and that style of jiu-jitsu. They weren't like going like take down, guard pass, there was absolutely none of that, like none at all. And like, they'd get like, I always remember the coach like used to put an apple on his head, and the other coach would like whack the apple off his head with a wooden samurai sword. And, you know what I mean? Like, it was like, even as a kid, I was a bit like, oh God.
Can we do that?
Yeah. Do you know what I mean? A bit like.
Imagine the public liability insurance claim coming through. So what happened again? Well, I had an apple, right?
Yeah. A bit, monkey magic kind of martial arts, which was part of when finding Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and how practical and real and how no monkey magic moves. Like, they were only teaching things that were tried and tested, that worked, that were like really practical, devastating to the opponent. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, oh, this is the best thing,
So that was, early 2000s, you started re-exploring martial arts, and you somehow ended up in a jiu-jitsu class.
So really quickly, so it doesn't take ages, right? I was going around Sydney, and I was doing I did like bloody all kind of funny karates and just stuff that was around and looking around. I did some kickboxing with Mick Spinks up in Kensington, in that famous gym he had up in Kensington. And I always remember at the end of the class, they all used to start rolling around on the floor together, right?
Which and it was
like, what's that? But never got involved in it, that probably would have been before 2000. I just remember them all sweating and looking really desperate on the floor and you know what I mean? But that was the first time I probably saw it, it was like, and walked away going, Jesus, what's that? What are those guys up to? And then funnily enough, right, to apply for another visa, I had to apply offshore. So I went to Ireland. I had some mates in Ireland. I went to Dublin. We got this house, and then there was a martial art class in the club next door. And I went upstairs, and it was all like, it wasn't a very there was no monkey magic, right? They were all Club Dorman, Dublin Club Dorman, like tough guys, and like their sons and their mates, and they were all just in there to train, right? 1.5 hour class. The first 30 minutes punching, the second 30 minutes brought in kicks, which would have been like just like roundhouse, really practical kicks, like quite kickboxing-y kicks, right? And then the third half an hour was grappling on the floor, right?
Oh, okay.
And these guys, and I loved them, and it went really well. It was right next door to my house. I was there. I think it was like Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Every evening was training with them. And then in conversation with them, one of them went, "Oh, you need to look at this guy like Hoist Gracie," and handed me like a videotape.
Like,
No way.
You know what I mean?
Kieran, do you
Seriously.
know what a videotape is, Kieran?
What? What?
Yeah, for those listeners out there.
You're talking VHS.
Yeah,
like old
VHS.
school.
Yeah. And it was, UFC 1, UFC 2, blah, blah, blah. And was just like, who are these dudes like smashing everyone? And then got the visa, came back to Australia, and then literally I was driving to Manly from Bondi to train with Anthony Lange over there, who was a purple belt at the time, right? Like Elvis Sinisic was on the mat. He was a purple belt, right? Driving to Manly to train. And then I found a flyer one day and Paulo Guimarães of Roots had moved to Bondi Junction, and that gym in Bondi Junction opened, and I just went there every day, all day, morning, afternoon, night, whatever.
And
so
at this stage, you would have been mid-20s, late 20s?
Late 20s.
Late 20s.
Yeah.
So, I know a bit about Paulo. Kieran probably doesn't know too much about him. Any listeners who have been in the Sydney scene a while would know a bit about him and his reputation and whatever. So just to give a bit of context to what I'm going to ask you to talk about now, is I guess you could say Paulo is definitely of a previous generation.
Old school.
Yeah, definitely a more old school, not even talking about his technical ability as a jiu-jitsu athlete, but just in terms of culturally, is from that era of jiu-jitsu where it's like, oh, you're going to train at a different gym?
Yeah.
No. Like, I mean, then you quit jiu-jitsu. Like, it's either here or you don't train at all. Real that old school, really harsh team versus team, and not the sort of friendly love cuddling that we do nowadays in jiu-jitsu. What was that like? Because obviously that was to some extent, your first experience at jiu-jitsu. It wasn't like you trained somewhere else and then walked into Roots and was like, oh, wow, this is very different. How was it those early days in Sydney? Because that was also not only your beginnings of jiu-jitsu in Australia and particularly Sydney, it was super new then as well.
Yeah. Well, there wasn't that many places to train. I always remember Paulo saying one day, you'll go to Junction one day, go to Bondi Junction one day, and there'll be 10 gyms, right? And to me at the time, it just seemed so unfathomable. But like, I don't know if there's 10, but there's loads of gyms, right? There's loads of gyms in Bondi 100%. Junction, right?
I often say jiu-jitsu gyms are a bit like cafes, People go, oh, I can make coffee and sell muffins, and they just pop up.
I can do
everywhere.
a nice dinner party.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously, for some people that's enough, right? I just want my whatever coffee and muffin. I don't really care. But, obviously then you can see the difference between like really good cafes and really bad cafes. But, there's not 10 gyms in the Junction, but there's a lot, right?
Yeah.
Whereas previously, there wasn't really many options of where you could train.
Oh, there was like the one we were training at in Bondi Junction was like one of them cycling gyms,
Like you mean
and
like
then,
the spin classes?
Yeah, and then they'd finish, and then you'd move all that out the way, and then you'd get the mats out, and you'd put them all down and stick them together, and then you'd train on them, and then the next class would come in, and you'd rip it. It was like,
Yeah.
But like, I look onto Paulo, right? Like I don't have a bad word to say about him. He's been very good to me. He's always been very good to me. I speak to him maybe every 6 months or something, and have a chat, and like I say, I don't have a bad word to say about him.
What were the classes like?
Right. So just into that whole thing and the experience I had training, yes, back to the start, there weren't many people to train with anyway, but yes, we were a closed gym, and I couldn't like go off and train with my shadow that was like Anthony Lange, and like no way in the world. There was Marcelo, had Gracie Baja, and Bruno had Bruno Pano, Gracie Sydney, right? And they kind of split the territories up, and this is how it, Paolo was Eastern Suburbs, Marcelo was Northern Beaches, Bruno Pano was CBD and South or something, so they really mapped out the turf, right? And then moved in and that, and that was it. And they were the only 3 black belts in Sydney, at the time. And there's actually funny stories about when they first arrived, and all 3 of them worked on a door of a really rough pub in Manly.
Oh, no way.
And there's some really funny stories. Like Paolo used to tell them every now and again. But like the 3 of them wouldn't, I guess Paolo could look like a tough guy, but Marcelo wouldn't and Bruno wouldn't. You know what I mean? And then like imagine all them big rough gangs of drunk Aussies and backpackers and whatever, like having a crack, and then all of a sudden like
Snap.
3 massive black belt jiu-jitsu situations all start doing their thing, so that was it.
But from you, I remember you telling me previously they were quite punishing the classes, right? They were very, like real old school, harsh warm-ups and
but just on the not being allowed to train with other people, like it kind of seemed to make sense for me at the time because I didn't have big groups of mates that trained at other gyms. The way now there's so many gyms and there's so many students, like, people in other gyms. So you're like, I want to train with that guy. Like it wasn't really like that. Everyone that I knew that trained for roots, really. So it kind of, you just trained together. And then.
There also wasn't the same level of information sharing that you have nowadays. Like
True.
With the internet and everything. Like even when I started training, it was still a little bit more closed off. My whole move to Brazil, probably for the first almost 3 to 4 years, I was looked at as an outsider, even though I lived there and trained there twice a day, every day. It was still seen as like the foreigner learning our secrets.
Yeah.
But, that changed while I was there. And, the amount of information that is accessible online nowadays and the fact that you can form relationships online and then that person trains at a different gym or whatever. So, it makes more sense nowadays to be able to train at multiple places. Whereas like you said, back when you started, it almost like you didn't need to question it. Like it just made sense, right? Because it was, by default was all a bit more closed off.
Yeah. And then, we were all entering every competition we could, which there wasn't many of them, right? They started the federation for the state titles and stuff like that. The Pan Pacifics were already going. That was Peter DeBean in Melbourne and stuff like that. And we were all entering all the competitions. It was always the same people in the brackets, right? So, we all had people recording other people's fights so we could watch what they're doing to win their matches and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So it was quite like, you might not want someone from another gym in there to watch what your, sound like a knob, like your competition game was going to be or whatever, because we were pretty specific and pretty focused on what we were trying to do, So maybe it felt right, and like with the information as well, like in the early days, there was like none, like we were sending to Brazil for video tapes of like Gordo half guard and stuff like that. Remember them, set of DVDs? Would you know Gordo, the half guard master? Like won black belt world titles with his half guard techniques, right? That were like sweeps.
You might not know this, but like half guard back in the day was revolutionary. Like the way that, bolos came along and at the moment it's all like K guard and heel hooks. Like at a point in time, that was half guard. Half guard previously was only seen as this position that was like trying to save face between close guard and side control.
Yeah.
Half guard was this, oh shit, you're
almost bit of a
getting
lockdown.
It was almost like the person on the bottom's just stalling to not end up in side control.
Wow.
So whereas now, it's quite naturally, like it's automatically, well, half guard is good, can be good for the person on the top or the bottom.
I mean, without conversations like these, for someone like myself, new to the sport, I take all of this for granted. Like, yeah, I hear people say, oh, it's such a new sport. It's always evolving. But that doesn't, I mean, I understand those words, but I don't, if that makes sense. I don't really
like you
understand
haven't yet firsthand seen the evolution.
I haven't seen, exactly. Perhaps in 10 years when there has been more game developed, more newer positions like, I don't know, panda guard, panda guard or tarantula guard. No, throwback to a previous episode. But yeah, until I see it myself and I'm saying the things that you guys are saying, I don't think it's hard to understand that,
Well, it's like when you first started training with me, you had a little bit of time off, right?
Yeah.
And I can't remember whether you brought it up or I brought it up, but we got into a conversation essentially that, all the right ingredients for you to do well in jiu-jitsu were there, but your current style, for lack of a better word, was super outdated.
Yeah.
Right. And it's still a good style that can work, but it needs to be brought up to date with what people are currently doing in jiu-jitsu, because it does change and evolve so much. And I always give analogies similar to any industry that constantly changes, like medicine or law or engineering or something. Like, you can't, if you were a doctor and you just took 5 years off and came back, like, medicine changes, new antibiotics are invented, different ways to perform surgeries are discovered. And that's why we love jiu-jitsu. And that's why people who get into it and do it for their whole life enjoy that it is a never ending pursuit of, even the best guys in the world, like, even Gordon Ryan doesn't know everything.
Yeah.
Bushesha doesn't know everything. It's not possible to know everything, and it's changing so much. And just you yet haven't seen the evolution firsthand, but you'll look back in 5-10 years and you'll go, oh man, I remember like when K-guard was the hottest thing on the market, whereas now it's not many people do K-guard anymore, because things also come in and out of fashion. And I think you can draw a lot of parallels between like cooking and chefing
100%.
and jiu-jitsu, things like, it's not like all of a sudden people stopped enjoying the taste of whatever smoked salmon, but it'll go through phases of being really popular. And as someone who's, like we established at the start, not making party pies, like you were doing high-end food, right? Like, you're very knowledgeable and know what is currently, what people are enjoying to have served, and things go in and out of fashion, right?
So kind of to turn it to food a little, right? It's like the burger or the chicken schnitzel, right? They're great dishes and they've transcended generations for a reason, because they're, can I swear, fucking great dishes, right? 100%. And then, but via popularity, they destroy themselves. So burgers became shit and schnitzels became shit. Like, every pub had a shit schnitzel and a shit burger. So it becomes shit.
You would order it. So your friend would be like, bro, come this pub, you get a burger, you get a schnitzel and a beer, $5.
Yeah.
And then you get it and be like, oh, this is why it's $5.
Rubbish, right?
Loaded with gravy.
So its own popularity destroys it, because everyone just starts doing terrible versions of it, and weak versions and poor versions or cheap versions or whatever. And it becomes awful and it gets mass produced and it gets whatever. And then a few people go, hang on, the burger can be great, right? And they go and get the right bun, get the right meat, get the right dressing, get the right thing, cook it properly, serve it properly. Do you know what I mean? And that's what's happened with burgers. Now there's awesome burgers around town, and now there's awesome, like, things just dip back in and out and get.
And it's the same. It's the same with jiu-jitsu, and because it's also influenced by certain techniques that clash with each other. So I don't know, like, just trying to think something off the top of my head. Let's say, a period of time, like half guard's really popular. And then so as a way to deal with half guard, people start doing, okay, I'm going to do like rolling bolos from the top to deal with half guard. And then all of a sudden, like, half guard falls out of popularity, but then as a way to deal with like rolling back takes, people start doing whatever other technique. And all of a sudden, like, because people's styles and what's popular and what's countering what, kind of comes around full circle almost. All of a sudden, people are doing half guard again to counter, whatever it is that
Would an
that is
example of that
currently
be like pressure passing to avoid leg entanglements?
That's a great example, actually. Yeah. So, you would remember back, in your early days that was all kind of jiu-jitsu was, to put it like as a real bland statement. It was like be heavy on top pressure passing, blah, blah, blah. And then, that kind of fell out of popularity, as people got really good with their guards, and then people like learnt to play guard and whatever.
De La Riva stuff really rose and all of
exactly.
that.
And people started standing up to pass, and then all of a sudden now with bolos in the gi and leg entanglements in no gi, now people are starting to go back to that like on your knees, heavy pressure passing, heaps of body lock pass DVDs that are coming up nowadays. And it's like coming back to, well, people were pressure passing back in the early days, but it kind of fell out of popularity and fell out of not only popularity, but its usefulness because of the other techniques people were doing. So it constantly kind of comes and goes.
But it's
it's like what you said with the schnitzel and the burger. It's like, okay, that pressure passing is back, but it's like a different version of it. In the
it's
form
had a
of body
rethink.
weight. So it's in the first COVID lockdown in 2020, you did with I think you did it through Food Rascal, not Cook and Waiter. So Dave has
determined to turn this into a food podcast.
I'm getting hungry, boys.
Yeah, I haven't had breakfast yet.
I'm still thinking about that burger.
Yeah. So Cook and Wait is your main catering company. Yes.
Look, that question kind of needs answering. Like, so both of them are a premium offering, right? Both of them are a premium offering. Cook and Waiter, arguably, right? I don't think there's going to be many caterers listening to this that I'll piss off. Cook and Waiter, arguably, is Sydney's leading event.
What are they? Even if you piss them off, what are they going to do, Dave? You're a purple belt
specialist event caterer, right? And it's in this prime position, enviable position where it's got really, really, really solid client base. It's got a really good reputation. It's got a really great team. Lots of the team have worked for 5 and 6 years and stuff like that. And it's a really excellent business. I love Cook and Waiter.
Yeah, if you go on and look at your client list, like it's like I feel honored to have you
cater the jiu-jitsu gigs.
Catering, I've got the same caterer who's catering events for JP Morgan, and you did a massive Porsche event, right? When Porsche launched their electric car.
Wow. We're doing an Audi one next week.
Right. Wow. Like big clients. And then you throw in there and Alliance Sydney,
but as seen on.
But that's Cook and Waiter as well, right? It doesn't matter if it's, cupcakes and sandwiches and chocolate brownie in the park, or if it's like, Porsche or the Gold Dinner, the big charity gala that happens, or the massive corporates or whatever. It's the same detail. It's the same level. It's the same. You just do the best version of that, or the best version of that.
You do these little chicken sandwiches that Hinata, my wife, absolutely loves. And I remember like the very first time you catered for me, and like you go, chicken sandwich, little finger chicken sandwich. And I remember you telling me like how the chicken is prepared. And I'm like, God damn, that's why it's so good. Like, it's not just a chicken sandwich, it's like this whole process to, anyway. So that's,
I can't go through that process in case there's another case.
Yes. And I've already forgotten it.
You boil the whole chicken. Right. And you take all the skin off, like boiled, soggy, wet chicken skin. You take that off, right? And then you shred all the chicken off the carcass, and then you chop all that up. And the key, the trick, the secret is you get that boiled, yucky chicken skin, and you put a big pinch of salt in it, and you puree it in a blender, and it just looks like disgusting, like wishy-washy chicken fat, and then you pour that in.
Wow.
Right.
You put it back
and
in.
then and you put that in, and then you got mayo and herbs and nuts and and all the rest of it. And then it's like what the fuck's different about that sandwich? And it's that chicken skin
It's
thing.
it's like I guess like the fat content, right?
Yeah.
That's like the you know, the classic one is when people go, man, why is it whenever I go to like go out and have mashed potatoes, it's so much better than my mash at home? It's like, because you don't see how much butter they put in it, you know? So anyway, that's Cook and Waiter, and Food Rascal.
So Food Rascal, Food Rascal came first before Cook and Waiter, right? I actually bought Cook and Waiter, to be honest. I worked for it for a few years before, but I bought Cook and Waiter, but I started Food Rascal, and Food Rascal was a way of kind of, you know, before it had a team, I'll say a way that I could operate in the hospitality industry in whatever capacity I wanted to operate. So if like someone came in and said, hey, my business is getting really stuffy, I need the menus freshening up and the aprons and the uniforms and the cutlery and the da-da-da, can you do it? And I'd say yes. Now, Food Rascal was like a hospitality solutions or something like that kind of business, right? Or can you just do an event for us? Can you just, you know, catering? Like, yeah, sure.
So it was a bit of like a hospitality / catering equivalent of, you know, a handyman service, you know, like
I guess
kind of
so.
like, it's like, oh, I can do a little bit like, you know, I'm an electrician, also slightly, you know, if you need this little thing fixed at your house, kind of like a handyman for catering.
But what I didn't want to do is I didn't want to start like David O'Brien delicious catering company, some naff catering business that was like, oh, great, here I am, I'll do your fucking catering jobs. So I just want, for my own career, I didn't want to pigeonhole my business into like, I just do this, right? So I started to try and sell it as food solutions, hospitality solutions, whatever, see what comes, you know, like, and then Cook and Waiter, I was approached by the guy who owned Cook and Waiter and said, want to buy this, right? And he'd had jack of it. It was in a really good position. It was really well branded. I understood the brand and the clientele because I'd worked for it for 2 or 3. I was head chef of it prior in another time. So that all made sense. So then did Cook and Waiter. Cook and Waiter just got instantly massively busy and I had a bit of a rebirth. And that kind of pushed Food Rascal out of the picture a little bit without time to work on it, right? And then so now I'm in this really great position, hopefully this year, where both businesses are going to start to have, like Food Rascal's got a really amazing contract in a city with a big corporate where we provide management services to all of their hospitality requirements, cafes and event spaces and boardrooms and all this kind of stuff. It's a great thing. And there's a couple of other things in the pipeline for it, a few consultancies. And so Food Rascal's in this great spot too. So hopefully both businesses, we can find this little level pegging. But back to what I know you were bringing up is the brisket packs in lockdown.
That's exactly.
Right.
This is how we got onto this, reinventing the burger. So in the first lockdown, like everywhere in the world, it was...
Oh, that's it. We did burger packs too, didn't we?
Yeah, it was unprecedented, right? Like we didn't, you know, no one really knew what was going on, how long were businesses going to be closed. So you had done these brisket packs, which were essentially kind of like, I don't want to say... like the only one that's coming to my mind is HelloFresh, but not the same thing at all. But it was like that kind of idea where, hey, here's all the ingredients that you need to make said meal. Just follow these steps. But it was more prepared than HelloFresh, right? So Dave did these brisket packs where it came with the burger buns, like all the condiments were already made. So all the pickles were already made. The coleslaw was made. Everything was made. You essentially just had to heat up the brisket and put it all together.
So potato rolls, smoked brisket, or then Wagyu burgers, Zuni pickles from the place in California.
Best pickles ever.
Big Mac sauce, you know, our version of Big Mac sauce. You know, everyone's tried to work it out. A lettuce, a tomato, and was that it? And then you could get sides of coleslaw.
I think,
and stuff like that,
but
you know?
It's still like one of the best burgers I've ever had. And one of my best friends is a massive foodie. So much of a foodie that he recently just put in his apartment. He only lives in a 1-bedroom apartment, got an old fridge, bam, turned it into a meat curing cabinet.
You know? Yeah, good on him. Yeah. I've met him.
Yeah, you've met him, big
yeah.
foodie. And I remember I was like, Dave, I've got to get one of these brisket packs for my friend Matt.
Yeah.
And you sent him one for me, and him as well. It's just like every time I have anything to do with you, he's pissed off that like I don't invite him. And Matt's one of my best
So
friends.
you've got to start jujitsu to come to the jujitsu parties.
Exactly. He doesn't train, right? And anytime we have something in the park, he's like, maybe I'll just conveniently be in the
Walk
park
past.
at the same time, walking past.
Dave, while you're on, I did have something I wanted to ask you. When it comes to running multiple businesses, as in your own words, like one of, if not the most successful catering companies in Sydney right now, how does jiu-jitsu affect your ability to run a business? Do you find it improves your critical thinking and your management skills in dealing with pressure and stress, or are they separate in your mind? Or talk us through that.
I think, like, I didn't train for a while, like Adam just mentioned, right? So even in that time, it might be like I might have done the odd role with friends for about 5 years, right?
It was about 5, like in between gyms.
Easy, right? And at that time, that 5 years, I worked for Maryvale in the city, the group, Justin Hemmers' business with all of the amazing venues and all of that. It was an amazing opportunity for me. It was a great job. It went very well. Jiu-jitsu just didn't seem to fit in with my lifestyle right then, right? So like I said, a few roles and this and that. But even at that time when I was quite distant from jiu-jitsu, I just think once you've submerged yourself in the jiu-jitsu world, you will always refer back to it, and you'll always just naturally kind of, because a good example, I don't know, in lockdown 1, right? And when all of a sudden, like I went from having 2 businesses that were like ruthlessly busy, right? And demanding, right? Cook and Waiter was at this gallop, right? That was just, off the chart, right? Incredibly busy, like a team of 60 to 80 people, it was pumping, right? And then all of a sudden, like this COVID thing, right? I remember like the day by day steps that we walked through to it going to like nothing, zero business, like nothing at all. It's all gone, and you don't know how long it's gone for, right? And in that time and throughout that time, I kind of like, there was a really scary part where you didn't really know what was going on. And then when it all locked down and when it was all shut and it was all gone, and then you kind of like, I kind of thought, righto, I now understand who or what the opponent is. You know what I mean? We're shut. We're into like, we've got to stay safe. We've got to gather ourselves and get together and look at it analytically, the situation. It just became clear. And then you kind of, as you're moving through it, and you're feeling pinches and you're feeling stress, you kind of think back to jiu-jitsu almost like, all I need is one little gasp of air now. All I need is one little gap to get an arm out. All I need is one. You just kind of start to treat it like there's always an escape, and there's always
I
a
love
way
that
to,
analogy. Dave's having a super stressful time at work, and and then all of a sudden he's like, you shouldn't have given me that underhook, bro. And he's out.
just
he's
give
like, closes the deal.
Give me a chance, or just fucking breathe. You know what I mean? Just breathe. Just get yourself into a position where you can get some air. You can get yourself safe. I don't know. Like the other thing that's like that I find really helpful. And, we just went, Cook and Waiter just went, which you guys know because I didn't train. But like the last week of November and all of December was demonstrously busy as well, right? Because like it all kind of came back for a little while. It was just like went through us like a bloody tidal wave, and kind of in that, and that was different in a way because I didn't have a team of 80 to do it with because there's no team around, right? And everyone's doing different things or whatever. So it was very short. I was head chef again, right? I hadn't been head chef of a kitchen for a long time, but I had to take that on because I didn't have anyone, right? So, and then I find a good way to look at things, even if it's a month-long period, or if it's like a 4-hour period, or it's a day where you've got 5 events on that are all in different parts of town and you're shitting yourself. You just go, it's just a 5-minute round. right? It's a 5-minute round. Today is a 5-minute round. The next 3 weeks is a 5-minute round. You know, you kind of walk out and you feel it out and you're looking at it and you're assessing what it is. You know, you engage, you start to feel whether you're going to get the better of this or whether you're not getting, oh, I'm under pressure, I'm getting beat. What do I need to do? I need to push. And then like when you're getting towards the end of it, you go, it's okay. Only a minute left. You know, like we're getting there. We're nearly, I don't know. Like I just use analogies. I think they're the obvious ones, but I just think jiu-jitsu gives you like a rigorous mindset and gives you a really steady, stable way of looking at things. And maybe also hopefully makes you humble and makes you treat people right. And
we hope so.
You know, and also maybe gives you the courage to stand up for yourself when you need to, or to square your shoulders and say something that needs saying. You know what I mean? Like, because things like that are hard. Moments like that are hard. And if you haven't had any kind of experience in that stuff, or you haven't had any experience in the situation you're in, you know, like I've been challenged with these businesses moving into like quite corporate environments, like the contracts in the city. I had another big contract with a really massive global firm at Barangaroo for a while there. And all of a sudden I'm sitting in boardrooms with people in suits and they've all got their spiel and their corporate tangle that they get you in and the whole thing, you know, and I just found, you know, I had to kind of settle myself and find balance and find a clarity and to deal with them situations. Because in hospitality, I'd never been in them, you know? So I don't know. I think it affects me a lot and I use it a lot and in different ways.
Well, it's obviously, you know, it wasn't, even though you've kind of had time off, like you've always come back to it, because when you got into jiu-jitsu, you know, there was, I'm not going to say it's not like you don't take it seriously now, but there was obviously a period of time where you took it very seriously. And if anyone's listening, like while you're listening to this episode, you can find on our Instagram some old photos of you, Dave. So
this is a great opportunity to segue into what we found.
Yeah. So I mean, we've got some old photos of you, Dave, from I think you were a blue belt,
2003.
And even you know we're into it enough that you went to Brazil, right?
Yeah.
With the team, with Paulo and everything. Your first time to Brazil, or definitely would have been
to Brazil.
Definitely would have been your first time in Brazil with for jiu-jitsu reasons.
And this was for the BJJ World Cup at the time.
Yeah,
that was in Brazil for those. And
listening. The IBJJF as well.
So
they used to put them on in the same week. Well, IBJJF used to pick its date,
and
then World Cup used to just tag into the same week. I think that's how it used to happen.
So we've got
they had the inbound people, so they had everyone that was in town.
I'd love to hear about that experience, because going over there in 2003 to Brazil to compete as a foreigner, what was that like?
Yeah, it was amazing. Like, I think sometimes, and maybe I've done it in business recently too as well, like I think sometimes naivety is your best friend. Naivety is beautiful, you know? Like, and we actually talked before this podcast about underthink, overthink, you know, and the balance between that and how, you know, you can envy underthinkers sometimes that just seem to do shit.
Yeah, the whole
do shit, you know,
bliss, right?
Yeah. But like I don't know, was really focused, was training hard, was doing all the classes. Just to answer your question in one sentence, you said, what were the classes like back then? They were very hard. Earlier in the podcast, you said, like, we were doing 600 sit-ups before class, right? 600 sit-ups, and there'd be like sets of 50, right? And between every 50, like 20 or 30 push-ups, right? Different variations of push-ups, hands close, hands wide, whatever, like clap, whatever, you know? Like, you'd be fucked, you know?
Ooh, I feel sad for everyone training tonight in my class.
Right?
I'm taking a rest.
Yeah, hectic, you know? At the time, Alex Prates was a purple belt. You know Alex, who trains Robert Whittaker.
Yeah,
he's with the Sydney, Gracie Sydney team and stuff like that. He's a black belt now, has been for a while. He was purple belt. Ruthless warm-ups, ruthless kind of, you know. And then entered, like, won the state title, drove to Brisbane, won like the Brisbane thing or something, and then sort of like did quite well for a couple of years, like, you know, winning stuff, you know, lots of the same opponents, granted, so you get to learn each other's style and stuff. It's not quite as, but won a couple of state titles, won a couple of Pan Pacific golds, went down there. That was really big. It was really exciting, as if you'd ever picture yourself winning a Pan Pacific gold medal in anything, and then did that, won that. And then there was like talk around the gym of going to Brazil, and then Philippa and Andrew, two very good friends of mine that their daughter trains with us now.
Yeah.
There's talk of whatever. Mention that on the podcast. There's talk of Philippa and Andrew, of Philippa coming and doing some roles with us. Not so much Andrew.
Well, she said listeners will know I had elbow surgery, and Philippa was like, "Oh, once you're back to training, I'll come train with you." And then she brought Ella, her daughter, in to train, and I'm like, "Philippa, what happened?" She's like, "Cut her thumb off pretty much. Didn't cut her thumb off, but cut her hand really bad." And I was like, "Well, I'm training," and she was like, "Well, look at my hand."
Not Andrew, but when Andrew comes to watch Ella, I'm always trying to do it. A little bit of, is the word coercion? So I don't know, just training like a madman, the three of us. But there was a really good circuit of really hard trainers, competition trainers in the gym. Great, really, really good. Paolo was a really, really hard task master. And and just went with the flow, and then, like I said, won locally, and then there was an opportunity to go to Brazil, to go to the World. So the next thing you know, you've bought flights and you're going, and then, I always remember like the training and getting ready. We started freestyle wrestling as well, right? Which was really good for, as we all know, for endurance and for, and of course the balance on the stand-up game and being really solid base in the stand-up. We all kind of got this quite a solid sort of style of game from doing the freestyle wrestling classes with Big Igor, and with, and just a bit of a pattern, bit of a thing started to form, and then the next thing we're in Brazil, and then we trained at Gracie Barra in Brazil, and you like I just remember standing outside the gym, Gracie Barra, right? Baja Beach in Rio, and standing outside, and I was on my own, and I just had the biggest like, you are not worthy moment, right? You know what I mean? Like I do not deserve to fucking walk in here, and then.
But you did, right?
Yeah, and and they're big lessons, like.
And how did you go at the competition? Like how was it then going from competing here to competing in Brazil?
Well,
Dave's like, I didn't make weight.
I don't know. Well, just you walk in the gym, right? Like Hodger Gracie's in there with a brown belt on, right? Braulio's in there with a brown belt. Gordo half guards in there, like Pedro Pano, Carlos Gracie sitting on his plastic stool next to the wall under the picture of his father. When we were told when you arrived, you go straight over to him and say, hi, are we allowed to train and stuff like that? All of this it was really, really magic moments. And to see all them people, and then to just see the army of fucking blue belts that are about my size all thrashing the fuck out of each other. You're just like, what am I doing here? Oh no. And then you just get into it. And then so in the World Cup, which was first, which we only really realized was on when we were there. And we went in, and I did masters in that. I was 29. I just fell in, and I did masters, and I won the gold. There,
oh, did you?
Right. I won the gold in that, right?
Holy shit, that's awesome.
And it was funny as well. I was 67 kilos. I know, who would have thought? 67 kilos, but somehow they put me in 73, right? And I just competed. I didn't realize. So I competed in 73. And I remember coming out and going, like, these guys just look a bit bigger, Maybe that's a world championship thing. People just look bigger, like they're bigger, or they cut weight in a different way and stuff like that. And they were a bit stronger, but I was going, but they can't be. And then so I was like, okay, be fast, right? Be fast, be sharp, be quicker, like make decisions quick and move quicker and get ahead, and that thing where you get ahead, stay ahead, and I won the final with an arm bar,
Nice.
and which was nice. And it was really funny because like the final class I'd had in the gym, the last roll I had before we left, I had like where you're in guard and you've got a full arm bar on someone, but they're like standing up and they've got their arms straight and you're sort of wrapped up the side, and they're standing. And I always remember pushing really hard to get it and not getting that arm bar. He got it out, right? And walking away from the last roll, not achieving what I wanted and being like, fuck, that's it. I've failed, and ended up in exactly the same armbar position in the final of that fight and being like,
not this
you're
time.
not fucking getting out of this, buddy.
No way.
You know what I mean?
Unreal.
You are not fucking getting out of this. Like, bang, it's just that amazing little, whatever that is, that you've I've missed this armbar once. I didn't enjoy it, so that was good. And look, like, I know it was like Masters, World Cup, whatever, but like, there was a bit of fun, like, the media were over because we were the gringos, and whatever. Like, by the way, Philippa and Andrew won on the same day as well, and Paolo, right? Yeah. So like, there's a bit of media, and then the media were the next day, and then even before it, because we were gringos, someone said to us and said, "Oh, will you wear this patch on your gi? We'll sponsor you." Like, I don't know, it was just like, in a really little way, it was fun. It was a fun little era.
So looking at a couple of the photos on Instagram, tell me, how ridiculous did you feel wearing a gi up at Christ the Redeemer to take that photo?
No, we didn't. That was photoshopped in. We did that photo.
No way.
No, we didn't. It was there. We didn't have that technology then. No. We did. We took the gis in a bag. We put them on. We stood under the
That's epic.
Yeah. It was good.
For the gram,
it was
baby.
good. It was in the moment, Like, it was in the moment.
To be honest, like Christ of the Redeemer is one of those spots that, it's like the Leaning Tower of Pisa. If you're one of those people taking those photos that looks like you're holding it up, you're just like one of like a million other people that are doing it. Just that, like, you go to Christ the Redeemer and there are so, like, you got to almost bully people out of the way to get in like the shot where you guys are, where it's you and then the Christ in the background. Man, there are so many people there taking that exact same photo.
Yeah.
It's quite hard to wiggle your way in to get the photo.
But so then IBJJF Worlds were a week later, right? I kind of feel like I peaked a little, like I wasn't a professional athlete. I was just trying my best, I kind of felt like I peaked a little bit for the World Cup, and then kind of like got a bit crook in the week, and then kind of competed anyway. And in my first fight, got swept over, kind of then got controlled a little bit, a bit of a frustrating first match, and didn't win. A match that you've walk away from, you felt you could win, but something happened and you didn't quite, whatever.
Yeah.
Now tell me, did you get crook? Because I spoke to Nicole a little while ago prior to this podcast, Nicole being Dave's wife.
Oh my God, what's coming here?
Really? No, nothing.
I'm waiting as well.
Nothing super sinister, but she told me that you did have a rather unhealthy addiction to acai. Did you?
Oh, I went fucking purple. Yeah, I looked like that fucking girl on Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, the little blueberry that floats away. Yeah.
Is that maybe why you got crook, Dave? You ate a little bit too much.
I don't know what, because I turned purple and floated away. Maybe. Yeah.
Try to get that acai in Jesus powers,
it's
right?
Like it's the equivalent of like, when someone goes jaundice, right? Has liver failure and turns yellow. Dave's turned purple from eating too much acai.
But it's,
it's hard to say no, man. You can give me a tub of like 4 kilo acai. I can be like sick to my stomach, but still when I have that last spoonful, I'm like, no, it's over. It doesn't matter how much of it I eat. When it's gone, you're sad.
Mm.
Yeah. But, you just go with the flow. And as well, like back then, the whole like diet thing to compete at that level was a bit elusive to me as well. Like I just went with the flow, and like I didn't really know.
That's how it was. Like, Fabio won worlds 4 times in the late 90s, early 2000s. And you know, he even said like back in his day, yeah, of course, everyone was still tough and really good, but it wasn't like today where white belts train like professional athletes. He was like, oh man, we trained like once a day and we went down and hung out at the beach and, you know, we didn't do strength and conditioning or anything. We just trained once a day and we were in Rio. It was either beach or training and that was it. And those were the people you were competing against at the Worlds. And yeah, they were still high level black belts, but not to the level of, you know, like a black belt winning Worlds in the 90s is probably equivalent to just like a average blue belt nowadays. Like, I mean, that's just a very vague statement. I'm not actually making that comparison, but you know, you can't argue that nowadays, like you literally do come across white belts who do 2 jiu-jitsu sessions a day and a strength and conditioning session, you know, and they do that every single day. You know, they train from the beginning like professional athletes, whereas back then, even the black belts didn't train like professional athletes. And that's just the standards and the stakes have been raised.
As well, these days, there's all of the stuff online as well. Like if you're not doing your 2 classes and your strength and conditioning, you're sitting at home watching escapes and takedowns, solutions.
Yeah, right. You're constantly like getting
techniques, the detail in the rear naked, the detail in the thing, you know, like you're just picking it up everywhere, you know.
It's almost too much information.
It definitely is too much information. Very overwhelming.
You struggle with the most simplest
instruction. Like
instruction.
yesterday we did a guard pull. I didn't even know that you could guard pull. Didn't know that was the thing.
Kieran's like, I thought my strategy was blast double guillotine.
Yeah. Wait, I blast double and then get guillotine? Yeah, correct. Yes. Yeah. There's certain people I just won't blast double anymore because I'm like, I don't want to be guillotined by you. It's not worth it.
Who always guillotines you?
When I go for a blast double? Joey. Joey always wraps it.
Fuck Joey.
Yeah.
I hate that dude. God damn. Joey's still got, I don't know, Dave, because you briefly said the last couple of months have been so busy at work, so you haven't been in the gym. I'm not sure if you're aware of, are you aware of the bounty that Joey has on his head?
No, I'm not.
So, you know, Joey gave him his black belt back end of November, right?
November the 20th.
November the 20th. There you go. You did the event
catering.
for us. You catered the
I
event.
remember it well.
Right.
Food was great.
It was fucking amazing. It was amazing.
So, but Joey has put this bounty on his own head that is the first person to submit him since he's been a black belt, not included, like this offer doesn't extend to other black belts, unfortunately. But the first person to tap him.
Unfortunately.
The first person to tap him as a black belt wins a free dinner. So, and now like even in Nogi, he wears his black belt. Like that's how you know that the bounty's still up for grabs. And so people are hungry for it, bro. Like Anthony had him deep in a heel hook that he got out of. And, Kieran's like after it because a roller before the bounty, you know, like Joey made a mistake and Kieran just like jumped on the back and ripped the rear naked choke and got him.
It's the
and,
only time
you know, so
him,
it's there. And to the point where Joey's even like, man, I just need this to be over and done with. Like the longer it goes on, you know, but there's a bounty on Joey's head that you can win yourself a free dinner. I mean, probably the least appealing prize for you. You know?
I was going to say, what is that? Is that like entree, main, dessert?
Yeah.
You know,
where is this?
Like,
where is it?
Yeah, canapes to start, you know, where's it go? Does it include wine? I don't know. What's on offer here?
Yeah. I said it to someone and their response was, oh, but does the dinner have to be with Joey?
Is it a +1?
Yeah.
I'd take a coupon. Like.
Yeah. Anyway, Dave, we're going to wrap it up there, bro. I know you're a busy man. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you. I enjoyed it a lot.
It was really good. When can I see you back in the gym? Now that on video, on recording.
I did
a call out for earlier this week where I tagged everyone in the WhatsApp group who I haven't seen train this year.
Yeah. And I have done sessions this year. I have. I got a gentle ass whooping off Kieren, I must mention.
No, sorry. Who I said I haven't seen enough. I haven't seen train enough. Yes, you were tagged. And then lots of people said, oh, back this week. And even right before we started recording, I said, Dave, when are you training? And you said, this week. I said, what day? And you said, don't know.
So, you know, I know I've made more comebacks than Rocky Balboa, right? I don't know, tonight. Okay, let's get it over with. Let's get it over with.
Run, boys. So just for our audience, if anyone is out there listening, is in Sydney and wants to get in contact with you to inquire about your catering services, where's the best place they can find you?
I don't know, like isn't Instagram the new business card? You know,
100%.
like Cook and Waiter. There's a Cook and Waiter UK, so just Cook and Waiter is the Sydney one.
Yep.
And Food Rascal, there's only one, is the thing. Other than that, there's websites. There's Food Rascal website. There's Cook and Waiter website. I don't know. Like just.
I feel like
Google
you
us.
kind of need to be invited by Dave to have the honor of him catering. You know, it's kind of like super prestigious. It's like no. Like we'll contact you.
Our people will call your people.
Yeah. So you can find him on Cook and Waiter
On Instagram.
Food
You
Rascal
do have to
on
watch out.
Instagram.
You do have to watch out for giving that air about yourself. You know what I mean? Like as if you monitoring clients as if, do we want you? You have to watch out, you know, without looking like a dick.
Yeah, I mean, I said earlier on, I don't know what I'm going to do when you can't do my events, and whether that comes when if you sell the business
Numbers are down at the gradings. I don't know why.
Or the day comes where you can whoop my ass in the gym, and then now you no longer like that's why you've been doing it.
Well, I'll get you to do the catering.
That's right.
I'm definitely not coming.
Ads, come on, we need a buffet on Saturday, mate.
On that note, thanks so much for listening, everyone. And Dave, thanks again for being a part of the podcast.
Thank you very much.
Catch you guys.